Now welcome to the last stop on this tour bus, to the top where I was told hard work would lure us. Sure enough, look where I'm headed, the opposite direction of the life that I dreaded.
Yo YouTube, what's up? I'm Tim. This is a Cash Kelly and AC Sports Report. And the Florida Marlins might have been known for their cheap ways, mired with some years there where they were able to make some magical runs and win the World Series. But the Miami Marlins clearly are taking a different approach. Already having signed Heath Bell in this free agency period, the Marlins come out and get arguably, I think, the third best guy on the free agent market behind Pujols and Prince Fielder, and that is shortstop Jose Reyes. The Marlins last night agreed to a 6-year, $111 million deal with an option for a 7th year. This is an 18.5 yearly average. I mean, obviously, that's not normally how it works in a deal. Usually, you'll split the money up however the player wants. Either you'll put more money towards the front or towards the back, whatever. But it averages out to be about $18.5 million. And I like that the Marlins are aggressive in this deal. And you notice that they don't put a no-trade clause in there, so if this doesn't work out, or the Marlins decide that they're going to go back to being cheap, they have an out. But I like that the Marlins are aggressive, but there's a few things I dislike about this deal. First of all, $18.5 million, I really feel like you almost bid against yourself, because the Mets were not going to be able to afford what the Marlins were. If they offered him $100 million or just a $95 or $90 million deal, I think ultimately he takes the deal. I think the Marlins wanted to move quickly, and they decided we're going to go out and somewhat overdo this deal to make sure he signs with us now, so we can say, okay, we got Heath Bell, we got Jose Reyes, what's next? Rather than waiting around the next couple weeks and maybe going after Pujols and him and Mark Burley and C.J. Wilson and potentially ending up with none of them. So they might have overspent here. The problem I have with overspending for this guy is I just don't think at this point there's a shortstop in the game that is worth almost $19 million a year. And I don't think he fits into that category. He's 28 years old, so I think his prime is last year probably, but right about now. And then you're talking about a guy who obviously can steal a ton of bases. But power-wise, and this will improve as he moves, I'm not sure what the exact dimensions of the new Marlins ballpark are going to be, but it can't be any worse than playing in the Grand Canyon, a.k.a. Citi Field. But this is a guy that never hit more than 19 home runs. And really, over the last few seasons, the last 3 seasons, since 2009, the most games he's played is 133. That concerns me. And the home runs, if you don't hit a lot of home runs as a shortstop, normally that's okay, because it means you're getting guys on base, whatever. But not hitting a lot of home runs normally means you're not going to be an 100 RBI guy, and he has not really ever been close to that, except 2006 he had 81 RBIs. That's his career high. And you're paying him almost $19 million a year. When you think about the guys making near 20, you're talking about guys like Jason Bay, who obviously didn't deserve it, and maybe that's what the Mets looked at here. But guys like Matt Holliday, those types that are making in the area of what he's making, and they have so much more power. Jose Reyes is a good fielder. He's not the best fielding shortstop of all time, so you're not paying him for that. And honestly, hitting-wise, obviously in his rookie season in 2003, in 69, no sexual pun intended, games, he hit .307. But other than that, and last year where he hit .337, he killed it last year in 126 games. The highest this guy ever hit was .297. And or he hit 300 in 2006, my bad. But other than that, you've looked at seasons with this guy who's hit .273, .280, .282 as recent as 2010, where he actually played more games than he played in this last 2011 season. And the thing that I just don't understand about Jose Reyes is offensively, is this guy a $100 million guy? I just don't think so. I think he's a very good pickup for the Marlins, but I think that they overpaid to get him. And I think he's been somewhat of an overrated player throughout his career. That's not to take away. I'd take him over Jimmy Rollins in a heartbeat. And I think all the concerns about the locker room thing, I think that was a bad rap he got earlier in his career. And I think moving on to a place that has guys that have been there for a while, and you're bringing in a guy like Heath Bell, who I think will be a very strong locker room presence. He's a winner, and I like that pickup for the Marlins. I think that the Jose Reyes in the clubhouse thing is a non-concern. I felt that that was overrated for quite some time now. I think he was in a bad locker room with the Mets, and whether that rubbed off and he became that, or whether he just got the reputation guilty by whatever they call it, guilty by association, I thought that was kind of stupid. Now, some other things that the Marlins have to look at. Hanley Ramirez obviously will move to third base. I thought maybe they'd look at trading him. And I think, honestly, if he wants to be there, that makes sense. You got two. That side of the infield, and if Jose Reyes gets hurt, you have a backup shortstop. I mean, obviously, it's weird to think of Hanley Ramirez, a guy who I said was the best shortstop in baseball a year or two ago. Obviously, he's coming off a down year. It just looks like, to me, Hanley Ramirez hasn't wanted to be there the last few years. He came up with the Red Sox. Imagine that. You're coming up in one of the most prestigious organizations in baseball, and with all due respect to Miami Marlins fans at the time, Florida Marlins fans, the Marlins aren't that. And you're coming up in Fenway with all the history, the winning, the expectations, the sellouts, and honestly, it's almost the exact opposite in Florida. And I can understand why a guy would get discontent. I think bringing all these guys in and making a run will either A, focus Hanley Ramirez, or you'll see that he just needs a change of culture. We'll see what happens with Hanley Ramirez. I'm not making any guarantees. I think he has the talent to win an MVP. But it is nice to see the Marlins finally spending money. Ultimately, it is going to come down to what their pitching staff does. I think Ricky Nolasco, I've been waiting for years for him to have a breakout year. It's not coming. We'll see what happens with Josh Johnson. He's an elite pitcher and very underrated when he's able to stay healthy, but he obviously had problems doing that last year. They need to go out and get another pitcher. It would really, don't overpay for C.J. Wilson. Whoever gives C.J. Wilson the money this year is just stupid, because if you watched him in the playoffs, you know that this guy is a good pitcher. He's not elite, and he had as easy teams that he faced this season. In AL West, where besides the Rangers, no one can really hit the ball. Now, a lot of people are asking, are the Marlins a legit contender? I don't know yet, because it depends what you do with Hanley. If you keep Hanley, you got a stacked lineup. Gabby Sanchez is very underrated. Mike Stanton, he had a power year last year. The rest will come, I think. He is a very good young player. John Buck is a pretty solid catcher. It remains to be seen what they'll do with guys like Logan Morrison. I think he'll probably get traded because of issues that they had last year, but we'll see. I have had a lot of Mets fans, and the one thing, if the Marlins were somehow able to sign Albert Pujols, trading Hanley Ramirez for a pitcher who hasn't reached arbitration yet might be what could make them a World Series contender. Not just a playoff contender this year, a World Series contender. If you were able to sign Albert Pujols to the $200 million contract, whatever, and then move Hanley Ramirez somewhere else and get a second-year stud pitcher who hasn't reached his arbitration yet, that you can get for cheap for a year or two, man, the Marlins could be really good. If you're talking about him being the second starter, and I don't know who him is, you would have to put together a great package, but you would think Hanley Ramirez would be very lucrative to a lot of the teams on the West Coast. The problem is I'm having a tough time. Maybe, here's one to watch out for. Hanley Ramirez for Matt Cain or Tim Lincecum. Well, they're not going to trade Tim Lincecum. But Hanley Ramirez for Matt Cain is possible. Now, I mean, are the Marlins going to sign Pujols? Most likely not. So don't get too excited if you're a Miami Marlins fan. Mets fans, I know you're disappointed. This is what I got to say to Mets fans. If you're being honest with yourself, the Mets are not going to contend this year, next year, probably the next 3 or 4 seasons. So what good is somewhat overpaying for Hanley Ramirez going to do for you in the next 3 or 4 years? Honestly. What good? How is that going to help you to get better. I just think that would almost be wasted money. I think the Mets are possibly going to look at trading David right now. It's going to be ugly for a couple years. I was there with the Phillies, my team, in the early 2000s. They traded a few people. They got some breaks. They had some tremendous drafts. They got guys like Ryan Howard, Chase Utley. They made some pickups like Jason Worth. So things will go your way eventually. I like what Sandy Alderson's doing. They're reducing the payroll, not spending useless money, realizing that right now is not their time. But their time will come. And if you're a Mets fan, you got to realize Jose Reyes is not the best player on a championship team. Especially, he's not going to be when the Mets are ready to contend when he's 32 or 33 years old. That's the bottom line. I'm Tim. This is the Cash Kelly and AC Sports Report. Leave me your thoughts. Hit us up on Twitter at Cash Kelly and AC, Facebook Cash Kelly and AC Sports Report. We're out.